Hello, boys and girls, and welcome back to the first episode back on YouTube. The very first episode. Well, it's not the very first episode, Michael. Okay, I've done episodes on YouTube before, but they were fine. Hopefully this one's a little more special. This one's a little bit bigger, a little bit longer. Okay, all right, okay. Now it sounds like I'm describing a fucking dick. All right, let's pull back, Mike. Relax. Okay, so yeah, welcome back, guys. I haven't been uploading on YouTube. I'm sorry about that. Again, I was filming with my phone and I was having a lot of trouble with that. I was recording entire episodes and then either losing the recording or not able to upload it onto my computer. So I was having a lot of technical difficulties with it, so I just decided to buy a fucking camera. And hopefully it looks better, and hopefully let me move over a little bit. Damn. I want to frame it right because I'm going to be putting some shit right over here, probably. Maybe down there. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah. First episode back on YouTube. If you guys didn't know, if you've just listened to me on wherever you get your podcast, this is also a YouTube channel. It's just Nerd Out Sanctuary. It's the same as your podcast. Go on YouTube, type in Nerd Out Sanctuary, subscribe, like some videos. I would highly appreciate it. Comment below. I'll fucking respond to you because no one comments on my videos. So, yeah, be the first actual one, not some fucking spam comment that I got. Drinking my energy tea drink because it's going to be a long one, guys. It's going to be a long episode, so buckle the fuck up because this is a special one. This isn't just some normal Nerd Out Sanctuary episode. This is these are new type of episodes that I'm going to be doing. This is like a new type of series for me. This is kind of the big episodes that I want to do. And the title of these episodes are going to be called the Why I Love series. I'm going to be telling you why I love something, whether it's a film, a series of films, a franchise, a TV show, a comic book, a video game, series of video games, whatever. Novel, a specific type of property. It could be anything. But I love it, and it's special to me, and I want to let you guys know why. And for the first episode of Why I Love, I'm going to be talking about why I love the East Rail 177 trilogy or the Unbreakable trilogy. M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable trilogy. We're talking Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. Now, what's different about this episode to my other normal Nerd Out Sanctuary episodes is that my other normal Nerd Out Sanctuary episodes, I'm just talking generalities and I'm just reviewing things, not spoiling anything. Not in this thing. Not in the Why I Love series. I'm going to be spoiling pretty much everything about these movies. So, if you've listened to my past podcasts and you listen to me review recent films, I usually kind of tell you whether it has the movie magic, the Mikey's movie magic. And I just tell you yes or no or maybe or whatever the fuck I say. That's stupid. Now, I'll tell you now. All three of these films have the movie magic in my opinion. Okay? They have the movie magic. Let me get back from the mic so I stop getting those audio spikes. But they got the fucking magic. So go see them. Rent them. Buy them. You're going to like them. So if you haven't seen any of those three, if you've just seen two of them, you haven't seen one of them, watch the other one because I'm spoiling it all. It's spoiler alert throughout. So go out, watch them, then come back because I have a feeling that you're probably going to enjoy them more after you hear my opinions on them. So, yes, you can come back and I'll tell you why the series of films is so special to me. Everything that I talk about in the Why I Love series is incredibly important to me, and it's either helped me grow as a person or it's heavily emotionally connected with me, and it's just incredible. It's very special. And that's why I want to do this. I want to bring out all these amazing pieces, these masterpieces of entertainment, and tell you why it is a masterpiece in entertainment. And so, yeah, that's these episodes. And without further ado, I'm going to be doing this in 3 parts. So, like, the first part, I'm going to talk about Unbreakable. Second part, I'm going to talk Split. And the last part, I'm going to talk about Glass. I mean, they'll probably sprinkle into each other. I mean, topics will probably overlap because it is a trilogy and themes bleed over to each one. And there's obviously some overarching themes that we're going to be talking about. But, yeah, it's going to be 3 different types, 3 parts, because it's going to be a long one. This is going to be a long podcast. I can already feel it. I can already tell. That's why I got this fucker right here. But yeah, so there are probably going to be some breaks between them. But I mean, like, you don't have to go anywhere. I mean, I'm not going to like upload each part separately. It's all in one big video. I'm not going to split it up. It's just going to be one large thing, and you can either come back whenever. I'll probably put something in the middle between each film to like help, like just a promotion to my show, tell you to pretty much subscribe, or I might just not even do it. I might just like cut it out and just cut into the next one. But anyway, let's just get into this, okay? First one, Unbreakable. Let's get the fuck into this, all right? So, do you guys know what the scariest thing is? It's not knowing your place in this world. Yeah, it's pretty. That is incredibly true. Now, that is said by one of the main characters of Unbreakable, Elijah, or Mr. Glass. They call him Mr. Glass. Now, this phrase is incredibly important because it outlines the main theme of Unbreakable and a main theme throughout the entire trilogy, which is purpose and basically fulfilling your own purpose and figuring out where you fit in this world. This is incredibly important for both characters of David and Elijah, Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, respectively, their characters. Now, this theme incredibly hits home to me because, especially when you graduate college and you start going in the workforce and you start doing a job and some tasks that you just don't give a fuck about, and you're just doing random shit that you're just doing because you're getting paid for it, and you're just kind of like you just wake up some days and you're just like, what the fuck am I doing? What the fuck am I doing with my life? Am I literally put on this earth to be doing this? Or like, really? Is this it? Is this it? So yes, that's incredibly existentially extremely frightening. Like, it's horrifying. And that's kind of where the base of almost sort of like the horror of this film. And it's not a horror film by any means, but yeah, that's what it's there. The fear is there. Now, the best films, in my opinion, make you think about things. They make you feel a lot of things. And this film does both of that throughout the entire film, from beginning to end. It conveys relatable inner conflict, like I was talking about, self-doubt, fear, fear to love something, the fear of love something, your faith in things, self-confidence, transformation, self-betterment, and finally, at the very end, absolute devastation on some revelations at the very end. You know, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. You know, Mr. Elijah killing hundreds, thousands of people, just to find that one guy. That is David. Now, some people would probably criticize this film as being too slow. I just recently looked on Rotten Tomatoes. It has a 70% Rotten Tomato score and a 77% audience score, which are good. They're good ratings. But I mean, I personally think Unbreakable is one of the best films ever made. Now, I mean, Split is not one of my favorite films of all time, but it inspired me to create a list of 100 films that are on my absolute favorite. 1 being my most favorite film of all time, and 10 being 100 being, I guess, my least favorite of those 100. 1 to 100, yeah, I did it in like one night because I was just heavily inspired because I saw Split and it was one of my best theater experiences, and I'll be getting into that when I talk about Split. But Unbreakable is 12 on that list, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you about that top 100. But yeah, Unbreakable is number 12, so it's one of my favorite films of all time, and we're going to be getting into why, but the main criticism of this film, that at least of some people that I've watched it with, is that it's slow. It's a slow burn. Well, I kind of think you're highly ignorant, because, yes, it technically, I guess, is slow because no. There's so much happening every scene, every piece of dialogue. There's so much happening. I'm sorry this isn't a fucking Marvel film, because that's not what the fucking point of the film is. It's something more than just a normal action Marvel film. The film has comic books and it's about comic books, but it's more than that. Comics is just a, I guess, vehicle to tell the story. It's like I talked about, having your purpose and like not knowing what your place in this world is. Like, it's kind of looking back at a story, at, a comic, if you will, and these characters are figuring out their place in that comic. And that's kind of scary if this is your story and you don't know your own place in it, which is a fucking weird thing to think about. And probably I'm just going off of stream of consciousness there, but let's just stay on target. But yeah, newsflash to those people who think this film is slow. It's not. Every single piece of dialogue, every scene is not a throwaway scene. Just to bring in an example into the film, when David and Audrey, David's wife, they go on their first date, or their first, trying to reinvigorate their relationship. Sorry, I'm cracking my knuckles if you're not watching. Sorry, it's just a weird habit that I have. But when they're going on their first date and they're asking each other questions, and Audrey asks David, when's the first time you realized that we might not make it? Them, referring to them as a couple, as husband and wife. And he answers honestly, and he answers, well, there was, a night where I had a nightmare and I didn't wake you up for you to tell me it was all right. And you might think that scene is just like, oh, it's just them, getting back together, reinvigorating their relationship. No, that fucking piece of dialogue comes back at the very end, right? Because even in that scene where like they're talking about the relationship and Dave is just like talking about like there's just something off. There's just something wrong. It's not that I don't love you and his son. I don't know why I'm blanking on his son's name right now, but his son. Let me just. It's gonna bug me. I just need to look up his son's name. Joseph. Jesus Christ. It's not that he doesn't love Audrey and Joseph. It's just there's something wrong, and there's something he's just not doing. And in the very beginning shot, you can tell. M. Night is an incredibly visual storyteller. You see that in Signs, you see that in Sixth Sense, and you see that majorly in these films that I'll delve into a little bit later. But in the very first shot that we see Dave and his head is up on the glass, you can just kind of tell there's something off about him. There's something mentally just missing, and he feels that, and he conveys that. Throughout the entire film, he can't even really look at his son. A moment where his son got like beat up by something because he stood up to a bully at school, and he was crying to his dad, and he's saying, I'm not like you, I can be hurt just like normal people. You can't be hurt. And like, he's just not, he can't even like look at his son, and he's just like, no, you are like me. And like, you have that scene of David not really knowing his place in the world, to after he takes down that like the evil janitor at the end, and he fulfills his purpose, and he fulfills his potential, and he knows what he has to do now is to become this superhero. And once he does, and that amazing scene where I pretty much cry every time because it's so emotional, when him and his son are sitting opposite to each other at the end of the film for breakfast, and he like eases over the morning paper, and he's like, say like, look at it, and it's his father, and he's like the Cape Crusader, and he's a superhero, and then he's just like, yeah, you were right about me. And then it's just such an emotional moment, and they make eye contact, and he can look at his son now, and there's something there now. He's awakened. He's fulfilled his purpose. And that is just such a magical moment in the film. And it just hits me like just a tidal wave. So yes, shit comes back to play. And yes, at that moment, like the moment where he doesn't wake his wife up for her to tell him it's all right after he wakes up from a nightmare, because there's something missing. And at the another shit that comes back into play at the end, when he picks up Audrey, carries her upstairs, and like lays on the bed, and then he says to her, "I had a nightmare," and it's just like, oh, perfect. It's amazing, M. Night. You're taking a little piece of dialogue that from sort of the middle part of the movie, and it comes back to play at the very end to symbolize he is complete now. He's okay. He's fulfilled his purpose another way. Oh, gosh, it's fucking amazing. Now, let's just get into M. Night a little bit, and just the way he directs films. He reveals things incredibly slowly, which I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, he definitely challenges you. He treats you with respect, though, as a moviegoer. Now, if you're paying attention to his films, he's not incredibly subtle about his stuff. But I mean, like, there's definitely things to dissect, like I'm doing now, but they're not like incredibly. It's not like 2001: A Space Odyssey levels of like, what the fuck am I watching? It's not like him himself, or just like, I don't know what it means. What do you think it means? I mean, again, Stanley Kubrick is a fucking legend, and I love him, and I love 2001: A Space Odyssey, but no one fucking knows what that ending means. I mean, come on. I'm probably gonna do that film for this show for sure. But anyway, getting back to Unbreakable and the trilogy and M. Night. But yeah, I mean, we all know M. Night has had a pretty rocky career. But me personally, I think he's one of the greatest. He's one of the best filmmakers working today, and who's ever done it. I mean, yes, he's made probably some of the worst films ever. I mean, The Last Airbender is absolute dog shit. I will acknowledge that. But I think Unbreakable is one of the greatest films of all time, and I think Signs is also one of the greatest films it's one of my favorite films of all time, in my opinion. And I love The Sixth Sense as well. And The Sixth Sense is like one of the most famous twists ever in a film. I mean, other than Star Wars, Luke, I am your father. But I mean, like, everyone knows that, because everyone knows The Sixth Sense twist now, because it's a phenomenal film. I mean, yeah, so what? He's made some shitty stuff. Everyone wants to focus on the negatives, and that's just not what I'm about. That's not what this show is about. We like to praise people who doing good things, I mean, like my very first episode of Nerd Out Sanctuary, I was shitting on Star Wars. Like, I don't know. I just don't like. I'm not a huge fan of shitting on things. I wanna nerd out about stuff. That's what this show's about. It's called Nerd Out Sanctuary. It's a safe place for us to just nerd out about things. It's not. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna be raging out again for something, but I mean, I don't really. It's not what I prefer to do. But yeah. So M. Night, just his ability to tell stories through visuals rather than just, having some narration, and you basically just tell you the story. He shows you the story. Some great examples of this in Unbreakable is one of the scenes in the very beginning after David's coming out of the hospital. After he finds out that he's the one survivor out of 132 people, 131 die, with one survivor being David. He's walking out of the hospital, and there's all these families around just hoping and praying that their person that they care about is coming out. And then, of course, there's Audrey and Joseph. And Audrey, there's no embrace. There's no like, oh my God, thank God that you're alive. There's none of that. They, I guess, discuss, but that doesn't matter. You don't need to hear them say anything. But then, Joseph, interlocks, forces them to hold hands as they're walking out. They split their hands up. Now, there's so much to know in just that scene. There's no dialogue in that entire scene. They're just characters miming stuff. I mean, they're obviously talking, but the dialogue is blocked out. You don't hear anything. It's just those three characters, and you find out what they're like as a family. You know that David and Audrey are clearly having problems, and Josh clearly doesn't want them to split up, and it's a little bit emotionally disturbing because, a lot of people, I mean, I've been there before. I would have been there when, my mother and father were having like a rocky relationship. That's one word to say it. That's one way to describe that. But yeah, I mean, I've been there, and it just tells you a lot about all three of the characters and where their minds are at and where we are in the points of their lives. Another scene when after Elijah's in the hospital and he's the doctor's reading to him all the breaks that he's sustained throughout his body, and the doctor's like, do you want me to keep reading? And he's just like, yes, keep reading all of them. And just Samuel Jackson's facial expression and his acting in this scene is perfect. It's phenomenal. Like, you see he's damaged. He's been through this before. He has, and this is clearly not the first time, and it's just, and it's devastating, but it's also, he's just like used to it. And he's just like numb to it almost. He's just like, and you can just tell, like, his facial expression, you can just tell that, like, there's something off here. He's, in his mind, he's just off. Because he's acting like this is just nothing. And he's just like, yes, just read all of them. Which it just sucks, man. That degenerative bone disease. Oh my God, that would suck. But one of the most important things in this film that M. Night, if you're paying attention to it, I mean, it's not very subtle, but if you're paying attention to it, it's M. Night's use of color in the film, especially with the character designs of both David and Elijah. Now, if you're watching the film, David is usually wearing or surrounded by the color green. Now, this is pretty significant to both. We'll talk about Elijah and his color next, but David he's represented by the color green. Now, according to colorpsychology.com online, green represents or symbolizes hope, growth, harmony, and has a very strong connection to safety or protection to others. Now, David is obviously very kind of mild-mannered, kind of a peaceful type of personality, talks very soft, harmonic, I guess, and clearly goes through a very, like, we're witnessing a part of his life where he transforms and he grows as a character. He transforms into the hero at the very end. And green obviously just symbolizes good. I mean, it's just like, you don't, green, good, red, bad, type of deal. I mean, green go, red is stop. It's also, again, a strong connection to safety. Now, Elijah even brings it up in the film. You know, there's all these careers out there, but the one that you chose was that you chose to be in security. You chose to protect people. Why is that? It's very interesting. And yes, it is interesting, Elijah, because it's not some random thing of chance. That's just who David is as a person, as a man. Now, getting to Elijah is always wearing or surrounded by the color purple. Now, according to the same source that I got all this information off of, purple obviously represents royalty, you know, kings, but also represents, you know, power, which is related to that, leadership, devotion, wisdom, and extravagance. Now, yes, Samuel L. Jackson is quite extravagant. I mean, maybe not as much in this film as other films, but even in this film, I mean, purple is very flamboyant. But I mean, yes, wisdom. He's incredibly smart. He's brilliant. That is his power. He is the power of his mind. And again, he's very devoted to. You find out his single purpose is to find David. You know, you find out the very end that he's killed hundreds of people in order to find David. And he, you know, once he discovers what David's purpose is, he knows what he is. And he's just devoted to his own purpose. And in that, he is very powerful as well. And just like their general looks in both the characters, like at the very end of the film, Elijah's mother basically tells David, you and David, that Elijah is the villain of this story, pretty much. You know, she was talking about the way the villain was drawn in this piece of art. You know, they have a large head and large eyes, and it signifies their skewed perspective on the world. Basically telling you, yes, Elijah has a big head, and he has a skewed perspective, which you clearly find out at the very end. Because of his so-called purpose. And David being cast as Bruce Willis. I mean, we're talking John McClane from Die Hard. Like, yes, he's the hero. I mean, of course he is. Of course he's going to be Bruce Willis. Oh, sorry. But yeah, incredibly amazing visual director. Tells his story, likes to show you his stories rather than tell you. I mean, obviously there's dialogue in his movies, but like even just through his shot selection, especially from Unbreakable, like in the very opening shot of the film is pointed at a mirror and it's looking at Elijah's mother who just gave birth to Elijah. It's a view of Elijah coming into this world through glass. I mean, that's all. It's clearly not by chance. He meant to do that. I mean, the very first shot that we see David, it's from behind like a set of seats, you know, and it's his head just looking out the window, just kind of in a state of contemplation of inner. I mean, you can just sense. I don't know. There's something about the way the scene is directed that you just kind of sense of some inner conflict or emotional deterrent, like keeping him from, you know, I don't know. It's just like sometimes you just look at people and you can just kind of tell something's off. And M. Night kind of directs the opening David train sequence like you're seeing someone it's just like a bit off. And even like then, it's just when he's, you know, takes his ring off and is flirting with the other lady, and, you know, he's kind of being, you know, about to be unfaithful to his wife, and you're viewing it from behind the scene. It's like almost like you're not supposed to see it, but you are. So yeah, I mean, also when Elijah, when it's a flashback, again, another flashback with Elijah, the first time you see him as a kid, it's through a TV screen, through more glass. I mean, come on now. And then when he first like looks at his first comic book, And again, of course, the wrapping paper is in purple. But like you see the comic book and it's upside down, and then like he rotates it over and it's still upside down. Like that's on purpose. It represents Elijah's misinterpretation. Well, not really misinterpretation, because he interprets his theories or his ideas of comic books being just kind of exaggerations of the truth and a form of history that's been passed down through generations. He's right, but his perspective on it is skewed. It's a flipped upside down, if you will. He kills hundreds of people to discover this one extraordinary person. Like, it's fucked up, just like his view on not just the world, but the world of comics. Another big scene that I want to talk about, which kind of relates to something else that's phenomenal about the film. One of the scenes towards the end where it's like the most action-y scene in the film, where David is taking down that evil janitor, and just the way it's filmed, and you're just seeing this character become what he's supposed to become, and just the music, James Newton Howard's score, it's so inspirational. It just makes you want to get up and just fucking like, fuck yeah, fuck him up, David. But just the score in general is one of my personal favorites. It's so iconic. It's it's the main reason why when I was seeing Split for the first time, I fucking like came in my pants, because I was just like, oh my god, what? We'll get into that later. But his score is phenomenal. It portrays such a range of emotions to displaying tension, fear, uncertainty, doubt, a menacing feel with Mr. Glass's theme, but also inspiration, like the scene I was talking about, and experiencing love, and during the scene where David and Audrey, like he's carrying Audrey up the stairs. It's an emotional roller coaster, and James Newton Howard is a big part of that. Okay, so that's my one. I have a lot of pages of notes, guys. Like it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. This, like, preparing for this episode took me a long fucking time, but yeah. So another reason why this film is fucking amazing is because these characters have arcs, but they're not like both David and Elijah they're very similar. They're very comparable, and that's kind of where the comparison to comic books really blossom. One of the reasons why Batman, and the Joker are such amazing adversaries is because they're so much alike but so different at the same time. Batman and the Joker are just, they're two sides of the same coin, but one just, one zigged and the other one zagged, basically. Batman is the form of is the symbol of justice and what's, right, and justice and order, and the Joker represents just pure chaos and injustice. And David and Elijah are very similar. They're both, kind of missing something. There's some void in their lives. And then you're taken on this journey through Unbreakable, and at the very end, they both realize what they are and what their place is in this world. Like Elijah says, I know what you are, now I know what I am. Which is, oh my god, such a fucking, it's one of the best twists in movies in general. It's better than the Sixth Sense twist. It's better. I mean, the Sixth Sense twist like blows your mind. You're like, whoa. But this one is just so much more emotionally devastating. You're like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. And plus, it's just so like, oh my God, how broken do you have to be to do what you did? But yeah, I mean, but they both find their purpose, and they both grow as characters, and they both have similar character arcs, even though they're complete opposites. Which, again, the whole connection to comic books is kind of thrown in your face with Elijah basically telling you what it is. But, yeah. I also just, again, kind of expanding on the whole use of the comic medium to kind of tell your story. M. Night subtle just teases of what this like story is gonna be is just hilarious. You know, when you're watching it back, like the scene where again Elijah's looking like got his like first comic book from his mom. Like she even says, "Oh, I hear this one has a surprise ending." Like, okay, M. Night, get the fuck out of here. We all know you have a surprise ending because you're M. Night Shyamalan. It's not an M. Night movie if there's not a twist in it. Again, the constant through lines of comics being like the exaggerations of the truth. You know, David is, you know, he is special. But, I mean, he's like, again, that comes into play a little bit more in Split and in Glass. But we'll get into that a little bit later. That the whole concept of, you know, these things being exaggerations of the truth come into play later, which I'll get into. I said David and Elijah being the exact opposites. David is our hero of the story, and you find at the very end, oh, Jesus, I'm dropping shit. Oh, fuck. Okay, got it, don't worry. Carrying on, the show must go on. See, now I fucking lost where I was. Okay, yeah. David and Elijah being complete opposites. David is our hero of our story, and you find out at the end that Elijah is our villain. David himself is almost indestructible, and he can bend steel. Elijah is absolutely breakable. He is breakable. I mean, he has a degenerative bone disorder where pretty much a slight tap to his arm, he could break a bone. So they're physically exact opposites, and almost mentally exact opposites too. I mean, David's not stupid, but I mean, like Elijah is brilliant. Again, at the very end of the film, his mother tells you the twist at the very end. She just pretty much describes you, Elijah. He has the villain has a big head and big eyes. They represent the villain's skewed perspective on reality or the world. And it's really, the big guy, the big bad guy who's very physically imposing. He's the soldier villain, but he's not the ones that you have to worry about. You have to worry about the arch villains who combat the hero with their mind, and that's what Elijah does, because he's brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. I mean, you have to be to carry out all these acts of terrorism. But yeah, that's what you find out in the very end. I just mentioned the whole the biggest hero and villain comparison in comic books is obviously Batman and the Joker, and we've told Batman is order and Joker is chaos. So there's so many like subtle teases throughout the entire film that basically M. Night just shows you, like, oh yeah, this is my movie. By the way, this is the ending, guys. So I mean, it's subtle, but it's also in your face, and you're just like, Jesus Christ. When you're rewatching it, you're just like, what the fuck? How did I not see that? And it's even in that, even in the poster of Split, where like the poster of Split has broken glass in it when it was being advertised, and you're just like, wait, like. No one even fucking thought. I didn't think about it. I was just like, wait, I didn't even notice it. And then you're just like, holy shit. You look at the poster and you're just like, how the fuck did I not see that? But yeah. So let's just talk about this twist ending here. We've been sort of beating around the bush. So yeah, I mean, it's well known that Shyamalan loves his twists. Like I said, we find out that Elijah has done some really terrible things. He has committed a lot of acts of terrorism. He's killed a lot of people just to find that one, that one man, the one guy, and which is David. And we find out he is the villain of our story. And why he describes, and he says, "I know who you are, now I know what I am. You're the hero, I'm the villain." Which is, it's just such a holy shit moment, and it just makes the film so much more rewatchable. And like when I was watching it back, I'm like, you're just watching it back, and it's like the 100th time I watched it, and you're just like, wow, like it's all connected. Like rewatching again, you're just like, whoa, holy shit. That connects to the end, and you're basically just telling us the story in the beginning. It's just, those are just the best films. You rewatch it and you just get more out of it, and Unbreakable is one of those. It's just, yeah. He teases the whole thing throughout the entire film with the comparison to the comics and the heroes and the villains. Elijah's mother just basically telling you who Elijah is and describing to you what the ending is going to be. His use of colors, with David representing green and Elijah being represented as purple. It's just, it's phenomenal. But I mean, yes, this is an incredible story, and it's an origin story of a hero and a villain and their rivalry. But I mean, it's something so much more bigger than that. I mean, it's like I said in the very beginning, the fear of not knowing what your purpose is in this world. That's the main through line to this whole film. That's why we're here, is to find our purpose. It's to have faith in oneself, believe in yourself. I mean, not just faith in yourself, but maybe faith in other things, in your purpose, that you're put here for a reason, and you have to find that reason yourself. I mean, M. Night loves to connect his films with some type of religious. He finds ways to put his faith into his films. I mean, he made an entire film purely based off of the theme of faith, in Signs, which is a phenomenal film that you should watch. But just having, in this one, it's just having faith in yourself, and once you do that, you can be complete on the inside, and you can discover you can fulfill your potential. Like, yes, David is physically unbreakable and he can bend steel, but in him discovering his own purpose and his meaning in life, his will and his emotional strength becomes unbreakable. It's signified with his connection, his reunited connection with Audrey and Joseph at the very end. I mean, it's such a powerful film, and it's told through a through line of comics, of superheroes, and just it's a film that's so before its time. If Unbreakable came out like today, or like in the past 5 years, it would probably be nominated for Best Picture. Like it came out more than 15. Well, Split. It came out 15 years before Split did, and Split came out in 2016. 4 fucking years ago, dude. It's been 19 years ago it came out. Fuck, dude. It's a while ago, man. I mean, you didn't have all these big budgeted Marvel movies and DC movies back then. You didn't even have the Dark Knight trilogy before Unbreakable. Way ahead of its time, if you really think about it. Oh gosh, man, it's the reason why this film is so special to me. It's because it hits me on a very emotional level of finding your purpose, and I think it resonates with me. I mean, this is a big reason why I'm doing this right now. I'm doing my podcast is because you do a job and you make your money, but I mean it's not, it doesn't fulfill me as a person. Like, it's not my passion. This is my passion. Films and TV and basically escapism is my passion. I want to fucking get out of my fucking life and go into something else. But I mean, just everyone. I mean, it should be emotionally resonant with everyone. I mean, it's a concept of everyone wants to know why they're here, what their reason for being alive is. I mean, but it's up to you to find it, which David does at the very end, and it's in an incredibly told way, and it's very inspirational, and it's very amazing, and it's also incredibly devastating because Elijah finds his purpose as well. Oh, man. That is why I love Unbreakable. So, yeah, that's the first one. That's Unbreakable, guys. So, I'm going to take a short break before I go into Split. So, yeah, this will, I guess we'll get into Split right, momentarily. We'll get into Split momentarily. Stick around. Hey guys and gals, I hope you are enjoying my first ever episode of Why I Love series. If you didn't already know, this is a YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, but it's also just a regular podcast. So this is you can get this on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. So yeah, I mean, if you don't want to watch the video on YouTube, you don't have to. You can just go on either one of the platforms that I specifically mentioned, and you can listen it on there. I recommend doing that for my normal episodes. I think this the Why I Love series, I think, is a little bit better to watch the YouTube video. So yeah, go on there, go on YouTube, watch, listen. Go ahead and leave a comment down below, or leave me a review on iTunes or wherever. Make sure to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Every little bit of love helps. It helps motivate me, and I love all you guys who tune in. Every one of you guys, even if you think I'm a piece of shit or some weird ass dude on YouTube or whatever the fuck, that's okay too. As long as you can watch, comment down below how much you hate me, whatever the fuck. I mean, it doesn't matter. I appreciate everything. So, especially, again, get it now. Comment below. I will respond to you. So, yeah, guys. Hope you enjoy this. The next segment of this Why I Love series. Thanks. Hello, boys and girls, and welcome back to the first episode of the Why I Love series, Why I Love the Unbreakable Trilogy, and now time for the second part. We're going to be getting into Split. Again, hopefully spoiler-heavy episode. Just want to remind you guys again, yes, I changed into a sweater because it's cold in my room, so shut the fuck up, all right? So anyway, Split came out in 2016. Unbreakable came out in 2001, so 15 fucking years in the making. Holy shit. I'm pretty sure this one is the most critically acclaimed of the three. On Rotten Tomatoes, has a 77% audience score and a 79% audience score. 77% Rotten Tomatoes score, 79% audience score. Bam. Okay, so it's the highest rated, at least on Rotten Tomatoes. Probably everywhere else too, but yeah, so let's just get into it. Split. I don't normally remember the first time I watch a certain film, even if I fucking love it. Like, I usually don't. Again, I don't really remember the first time I've seen Star Wars because I was so young. I was a kid. But I distinctly remember the first time I saw this film. It was in the theater, and I'll get a little bit more to it once I talk about the ending of why it was one of my favorite theater experiences ever. It was so memorable. It was amazing. But now, since I'm talking about it, I mean, the ending is, it's spoiled. I mean, the twist ending of this film is that it's connected to the Unbreakable film. It's in the Unbreakable universe. So knowing this, when you're watching it again, there's so many subtle teases, or it's really not even that fucking subtle. I mean, if you look at the cover of Split, I mean, it's glass. I mean, it's literally right in your fucking face. I even pointed it out when I was talking about Unbreakable earlier. So, yeah, we're talking the poster. The music is also kind of reminiscent of Unbreakable a little bit. Maybe, I mean, mainly, I heavily picked it up when Kevin was transforming into the Beast in the train, which we'll definitely be getting into because that's significant. Also, Patricia, one of Kevin's altered personalities, Patricia, the main matriarch of the bunch of the Horde, always repeats this phrase, in the sun we find our passion, in the sun do we find our purpose. Purpose, guys, purpose is another big connection here with the Unbreakable universe, as you know when how I broke down Unbreakable. Also the use of color again. It's not as blatant in this one like it is in Unbreakable and Glass. Mainly Glass is really flamboyant. We'll get into that later, and we'll get into this movie. Also, the subtle humor. I forgot to mention the fucking amazing, subtle, humorous scenes in Unbreakable. I mean, the scene where David is pushing up the weights and Joseph is helping him. That's an amazing scene. It's one of the funniest workout scenes ever. But in this one, there's another amazingly hilarious scene. When Hedwig starts fucking dancing in his room. He's showing Casey his room and he's dancing. I mean, Hedwig, another altered personality, part of the Horde, of Kevin's Horde, is just hilarious. Also, another connection, subtle connection, the concept of the Beast itself. Now, people who have this multiple personality disorder or schizophrenia, bipolar, whatever you call it, yes, some personalities are actually destructive and they probably are harmful to the actual person and to others. Now, the Beast is just an exaggeration of this fact. Now, Unbreakable, I mean, David is, Elijah brings up comic books are just the exaggeration of the truth, like David. He's an exaggeration of just being, people being strong. And also, but I mean, he's more, strong-willed at the very end. It's his growth and it's finding his purpose. We've discussed this already. But again, the Beast is being an exaggeration of that destructive personality, or just that destructive personality in all of us. So we all have a little bit of that Beast in us. We're all animals. I mean, humans are animals, by the way. Anyway, if you didn't know. But I mean, yeah, this is also replicated. This is also like David's ability. He has super strength and he's indestructible. He's unbreakable. Oh, the title of the film. Oh my gosh, yeah, great connection. Okay, I don't know why I didn't shit on the title there, but whatever. This is what makes Kevin or the Horde such a amazing foil to, or being that soldier villain to fight David, which is hilarious. Apparently, M. Night had this idea right after he filmed Unbreakable, back in 2001. So he was sitting on this shit for 15 fucking years, and then he just made it. I should have researched the actual story of him actually getting this film off the ground. I'm sure. I mean, again, I'm trying to imagine if it would be hard to pitch this to a studio, or if he had enough respect. I'm sure he had to do films before that because his career was kind of hit a major low point before that film came out, The Visit, because this movie came directly after that. Excuse me. But yeah, Also with the Beast, when the Beast first shows up, Hedwig, because Hedwig goes to the train station to give up the control to the Beast, where it's the birth of the Beast, and you think he's just going to some secluded place. No, he's not. He goes to in the middle of a fucking train, which is where David and pretty much his birth of him being a superhero came from the train. Where now you find out later, it's teased real shortly in this film, but Kevin is the way he is also because of a train. It's very it's not symbolic. It's symbolistic, I guess. It's very significant why Hedwig goes to the middle of a train so the Beast can arrive. It's very important because the train is the, I guess, catalyst to the entire trilogy, which you find out later in Glass. But it's the catalyst which makes both David and the Horde. So it's very significant, which is a direct connection to Unbreakable, and it's it's not incredibly blatant, but it's a really big connection that I just picked up when I was watching it while I was taking notes. So they're there. The connections are very much there. They're not so subtle that the second time you watch and you find it, then it's in the Unbreakable universe. But this is just why I'm just such a fucking fan of M. Night Shyamalan. He's just the man. Plus, his films are very intimate and personal to me, especially these three films. Next page, guys. But okay, this is still my Unbreakable notes. Get that fucking shit out of here. All right, so going on. Where the fuck am I? Okay, so before I get into the main themes of this one, Split, there's not as much here as there are in Unbreakable and Glass, mainly because it is just a straight up thriller until the very end, and then it's like, oh my god, this is part of the Unbreakable universe. But they're still there. The themes are still there. They're not as subtle as Unbreakable and in Glass, but they're still there. But before we get into that, we have to take care of this massive elephant in the room. We have to take care of it. We have to bring it up. We just have to talk about James McAvoy for a little bit. Holy shit balls, guys. His performance is one of the best I've ever seen. It's James McAvoy's best performance ever. I was so again, I'm not surprised that he didn't got nominated for an Oscar, but because I guess it's technically kind of a horror movie, whatever the fuck. Who knows what the Oscars were thinking? But he was the best performance of the year by far. Just the amount of physical acting he has to do is unfucking believable. He has to play, he doesn't play as many personalities as he does in Glass. Glass, he does even more. But in this one, it's ridiculous. It's insane. It's one of those casting choices where it's just like, it's kind of like Joaquin Phoenix in the new Joker film. It's just like, I don't think this film works unless that actor is playing that role. And I don't think this film works on the level it does without James McAvoy being so goddamn good. He's so good. Each one of the main personalities, like the Horde, are distinctly different. Everything about him is completely different. There's distinctive qualities to each personality. With Dennis, he has heavy breathing, and he's very OCD, and you can just tell that like the smallest details bother him. And again, he breathes very heavily. Probably like Dennis is probably like an overweight type of guy, and he's just like that. That's what, like, watch it. When you're watching it again, like, try to pick up the subtleties of James McAvoy's performance. Oh, sorry, I bumped the mic. Of his performance with every personality. Patricia always has perfect posture. She's always standing up very straight. Hedwig, his like somehow like when he's Hedwig, his shoulders are way less broad. It's very peculiar, but it's a small touch that's just like, okay, this is like he doesn't even have to say anything. It's just like, that's Patricia, that's Dennis, that's Hedwig, and even their speech isn't radically different. The voice inflections, the way they look, his facial features, like he changes it, the way he looks. And then the Beast at the very end is like, whoa, okay, so yeah, he's like jacked, right? Like James McAvoy is a fucking stud, basically. So yeah, it's just basically the best fucking performance ever. I mean, okay, let's not go that far, but yeah, I love James McAvoy. I've always loved him, and this just reinforced my opinion that he's a fantastic actor. But so now that we got the big fucking elephant in the room out of the way, let's get into kind of the major like themes of the film and why it connects to the Unbreakable universe. Even like it connects with it throughout the film, not just at the very end. So the main theme of the film, I mean, it's not very subtle. I mean, again, the themes in Unbreakable aren't very subtle either, because of Elijah constantly, saying like, oh, it's, we know what you are, now I finally know what I am. But in this one, it's a little bit more shoved in your face, where the people who've suffered and the broken are the more evolved. Now, this is just very accentuated in the entire film. Like I said, it's in your face a lot more, but just the concept of the Beast in general is more evolved physically. He's pretty much indestructible. I mean, shotgun shells bounce off of him, and he's climbing on walls and shit. But I mean, this is again just an exaggeration of the truth, like David's powers, which makes it a lot more of a connection to the Unbreakable universe, especially at the very end. Now, people who have, I guess, suffered or experienced hardship, I mean, in the film, it's portrayed that they're the more evolved. I mean, yeah, I mean, they're probably more evolved is not the correct way. I mean, this is also kind of an exaggeration. Maybe they're mentally, emotionally more evolved, because they're usually more compassionate, more understanding, or they're just not as naive about the world like a lot of other people who haven't really experienced some fucked up shit in their lives. I mean, there's, some things just don't bother you as much as normal people would let it bother them. So yes, there's truth in that. It's just very exaggerated of the truth. Like, they're literally more fit, they're just more evolved type of deal. In the film, that's what the Horde believes, and that's what they are fighting for. So, yeah. Again, the fact of just going through some shit just provides you with a certain set of knowledge that some people don't have, which is just kind of why the exaggeration of them being more evolved comes from. But this is just very incredibly representative of just by the girls in the film, the three abductees, but mainly, obviously, the main character being Casey. I mean, when you first meet all of them, like, the other girls just can't believe what is happening. They can't believe some fucked up shit like this can be happening. And clearly, like, Casey just doesn't say anything, because it's like, no, bitch, shit like this happens all the time. Like, welcome to my world. Welcome to the party, pal. But I mean, Casey's clearly, as you see more later in the film, when it's more revealed, she's experienced even worse than this shit. And the girls even ask, they ask Casey, why do you act like you're not one of us? Well, because she isn't. She's different from you. She's experienced shit like this before. That's why she kind of knows what to do. I mean, this is portrayed very in the very beginning of the film when Dennis like grabs one of the girls, and then Casey like grabs her and just like tells her to pee herself, because if he's not gonna fucking rape you if you're pissing yourself. Like it's gross. You gross the dude out. Like she knows, she's experienced this shit before, so again she has a certain level of knowledge. That's why it's like, oh, she's like, more evolved than these chicks. She's not as ignorant as the other ones. But yeah, this just makes Casey more conscious of the situation. She's more aware. She decides to play the long game because she doesn't want to fight like the other girls. They even said, like, this doesn't make you want to fight with every, like, fiber of your being. Like, it's just like, no. I mean, she's like, no, bitch. Like, I've done that before. I mean, you can tell, like, she's tried fighting before. And she knows that that shit just doesn't fucking work. And she knows that's why she chooses the long game. And she chooses, oh, okay, Hedwig, he's what? 8 years old. I can manipulate him. She chooses the manipulation because she's probably done that shit before. Even Kevin's alters are developed so they can manipulate his mother and not abusing him. Dennis even says, like, oh, I came about to keep everything immaculate and clean because then there's no reason for his mother to get upset. That's why I exist. So she also kind of knows similar things. Like, she'll just play along with her abductor so she can, like, manipulate him into letting her go. She knows exactly what the fuck she's doing, and she's probably tried running and tried fighting before, and that hasn't fucking worked. So, excuse me. But this also kind of makes her feel compassion and understands Kevin at the very end when actually Kevin comes up, when she says Kevin Wendelcrum and brings Kevin back into the light. And he just says, like, just get the shotgun and kill me. Like I can't live with myself anymore. And it's just like, you can tell that she just feels bad for him. And this is brought into play a lot more in The Glass. And I'll be talking about that a lot more with when I talk about Glass. But we'll just postpone that thought for a little bit. We'll expand on that more when I'm talking about Glass. But yeah, and just the fact that she survives at the very end, where she's just let go. I mean, again, it's kind of an exaggeration of what would probably happen. I mean, she's experienced this stuff before, so she gets out on her own, but she is let go because she's experienced the same thing before. She gets out because she has that knowledge. Just the fact that she has gone through that shit before, she's let go. But I mean, in like real life, because you would have experience in doing something, that means you would be better at it than people who don't have experience in it. If that makes sense. But yeah, okay, whatever. But another use, M. Night's use of color. I mean, I might be pulling out straws a little bit here, but I think it's pretty significant. In the very beginning, Casey is wearing dark clothing. She's usually wearing black. And the meanings of, black, it represents power, but also fear, mystery, and strength. So it's like, okay, she's definitely mysterious. She's kind of cowering in a ball. I mean, she's definitely afraid, but she's also has this knowledge that kind of makes her more powerful than the other two girls who are just panicking. She's not really panicking. She's waiting to find out what this whole thing is. So there's a certain, she shows strength. She's not panicking. She's just kind of, let's see what this is first before we start doing anything rash. And at the very end, she's wearing like a white blouse, and it's obviously ripped, but I mean, like, she is wearing a white shirt at the very end. And white is described as the color that is the most complete or the most pure. And this is explicitly told to you from the beast. He's like, oh, you are pure, rejoice. You are the broken are the more evolved. And she's wearing literally the color that symbolizes purity and wholesomeness and completion, which is I don't think that's by accident. I might be reading into that a little bit, but it's still cool. I mean, I still find it very significant. But again, so since we're on the topic of color again, when Dennis is in the light, Kevin's other altered personality, he uses a rag, and his rag is yellow. And we find out, later in the film, the Beast is wearing yellow pants. In Glass, the Horde is represented by the color yellow. So, what does yellow mean, Michael? Well, let me answer that. Yellow, yellow's kind of the most inconsistent. I mean, it's not the most inconsistent color, but it means a lot of different things. It's a very emotional color. It represents energy, like sunlight, yellow. Increased mental activity, irrationality, anxiety, depression, fear. It represents emotional strength and also emotional fragility. So, yeah, it means a lot of things, but it also makes sense that that the Horde would be represented by this, because clearly he's not mentally stable, because he has multiple personalities that are incredibly different from each other, just like the color yellow, representing a lot of things, and sometimes they're very contradicting to one another. So it's very, Kevin and the Horde, they're very chaotic, conflicted. Even the certain personalities basically vote, and they're very they oppose each other. They're very inconsistent, and that in itself just represents Kevin's different types of personalities and his very disorder. So, let's getting into the very end. The Beast lets Casey survive, like I said, because she has cuts all over her body, and it signifies that she's been broken, just like Kevin. So therefore, she's more evolved. So the Beast just lets her go, because she is what the Beast is fighting for, the pure, the broken. So, I mean, I do enjoy that. I think it is very cool, because it is on some level kind of true. I mean, having life, everyone goes through hardships, and hardship, definitely you gather a lot of knowledge from that, and there's a lot of life experience to be had when bad shit happens. I mean, again, another kind of sort of connection to M. Night's faith, in religion, suffering and bad shit. It's very kind of representative of transformation and growth, and the whole fact that bad things happen for a reason, and yeah, the reason is to just, I guess, make you better. And that's kind of what my constant through line of my episodic message that I get into every one of my episodes. Probably not going to do it for the Why I Love series, but for my general episodes, I talk about, having a bad day and having rough shit happen to you, to just not let it really get to you, but to use it and make yourself better, and as a better person, make you a better person. The fact that, today is not always going to be today, tomorrow will come, and you probably will be better. But yeah. And again, I'm sure he's learned a lot of shit through his career, because, I mean, M. Night's career has been infamous for taking a nosedive, very inconsistent. He's experienced the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. I mean, just in his filmography and probably in life as well. So there's a certain knowledge that he, has gathered from being pretty much the butt of a lot of jokes. I mean, when he's coming out with The Last Airbender and The Happening and Lady in the Water and After Earth, I mean, he was a butt of a lot of jokes, especially in the film enthusiast communities. And that kind of sucked. It sucks because he's clearly such a great filmmaker with the Unbreakable movies and Signs and Sixth Sense. He's clearly very talented. So, but it's definitely. I'm just trying to say he has a certain knowledge. He knows being down on the bottom sucks, but that kind of. He was able to come back from it, and he's experienced that shit, and it's kind of split. It kind of represents that whole journey, or just, having bad shit happen to you is almost kind of good, basically. But yeah, I mean, again, this film, that theme also works directly with Unbreakable, with Mr. Glass. He is born with a degenerative bone disorder, which makes his bones break at the slightest touch or force. Clearly he's literally been broken multiple times, but yet he doesn't let that destroy him. He still achieves his purpose in finding David. So it's kind of the major connection with, almost spilled my drink, with Unbreakable. So yeah. I mean, I will admit at the very end, when when the first time I saw this, we're going to get into the first time I saw this in the theater. When I first saw it and the Beast shows up and he goes in and he's like super fast and he's climbing up on the fucking wall and they're just like, oh, what the hell, M. Night? Really? This is like, you're going for some fantastical bullshit. Like, he's climbing on the walls. This was such a realistic, grounded thriller. I was really into it, and now this is just getting all fantastical and just what's going on. And that I wasn't checking out, but I was just kind of like, oh, okay, all right. But then he also gets like shotgun shells bounce off of him, and it's just like, what is happening here? And then the Horde is looking in the mirror, and the music from Unbreakable starts to play. And this is when I start freaking the fuck out in the theater. I was no fucking way. My mind was blowing in the theater. I was just like, no fucking way. This is an Unbreakable sequel. No fucking way. I swear to God, the guy next to me thought I was on coke or something. I mean, my friend next to me, he's never seen the Unbreakable movie. I didn't know it was related to Unbreakable. I had no fucking idea. And all these subtle teases go way over my head. They go way over my head. And so the Unbreakable music starts playing, and then Bruce Willis shows up as David. I'm like, oh my God. The reporter asked, oh, was that the one dude that they gave a name? And then he's like, oh, it's Mr. Glass. Oh, that's the one. Oh my God. I was freaking the fuck out in the theater. It's hands down my favorite theater experience I've ever had. Like, my friend was looking at him, he's just like, what is happening? And I'm just like, you don't know, bro. You don't fucking know, dude. You have no clue. This is the greatest fucking thing ever. I mean, talking about 15 years in the making, and oh my God, it is an Unbreakable sequel. That's the twist. That's the major twist. Holy shit. And that makes the Beast climbing up on walls and being stopping bullets, having the shotgun shell not go through him, it makes it make sense, because it's oh, this isn't real life, this is exaggeration of the truth. So yeah, he is indestructible because he's the Beast. Okay, he's the comic book soldier villain. Holy shit! Oh my God, that is amazing. Oh, I was freaking the fuck out. And like I said, apparently M. Night had this idea of the soldier villain having this multiple personality disorder. Brilliant. Holy shit. Amazing. But yeah, who fucking knew? And not fun fact, but in the film, I literally just caught this when I was watching it again, and I was looking for shit, obviously, and I was taking notes. But there is a moment when Kevin as Dennis impersonating Barry, talking to his doctor, his psychiatrist or psychologist, whoever the fuck the old lady is. And she brings up, like, oh, ever since, your father left on that train and never came back, you've been, and it's just like, and I was just like, wait a second. Holy shit. He set up the whole Kevin's father being on the same train as David in Unbreakable. And I was just like, oh my God. Holy shit. He set that. He knew that was going to happen. Yeah, oh God, oh my God. That blew my mind too. I was just like, holy shit. So all you people who were just like rolling your eyes in Glass when they reveal that Kevin's father was on the same East Rail 177 train, same train as David when it crashed. Like, oh my God, they set it up in Split. So you can't get mad at it. So shut the fuck up. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Love Split. It reinvigorated M. Night's career as well. Like, it's so good. Plus, it's just a really good thriller film as well. Even if you didn't know what Unbreakable was, it's still a really good film. So it's why it's rated the highest on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, so I mean, there's really nothing much else I can say about Split other than it's great. Again, one of my favorite movie theater experiences. This film, when I was in college. I think I was junior in college, and then when I came back to my dorm room, I was just so inspired. I literally made my top 100 list of movies, my top 100 favorite films of all time list. I was thinking about just doing like 20 because Unbreakable was clearly in the top 20, but then I just kept going because I couldn't sleep. My mind was blown too fucking much after I saw it. I was just like this. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle being so excited. I was like, oh my God. We're getting a fucking sequel to Unbreakable. Oh my God. And then it was released, I think maybe a month or two later. It was going to be called Glass. And that's where we're going to go next, guys. We're going to be talking about Glass, and it's probably going to be the longest part, the longest segment. So buckle the fuck up, refill your drinks, refill your popcorn, or whatever the fuck you're doing, because the next one's going to be probably the longest one, because I have a lot to say about Glass. So, guys, I'm going to take another break. If this is probably a good time to go to the bathroom because I'm kind of have to piss myself. So I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Maybe turn the heat up a little bit. Maybe keep my sweater on, and I'll see you guys when I come back. Thanks. Stick around. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around for the video. I know it's long. These why I love episodes are gonna be long. Again, they're gonna be rare because they're things that I'm really passionate about, that I love absolutely, and I want to share with you guys and share my thoughts. But I'm thankful that you guys have stuck with me. I believe the last part of this, the Glass part, I think is the best part, and I think it's probably the most important part to listen to. It's also the longest. I also had to do this recording twice because I thought my first time around wasn't too great, so I did it again. It's part of the reason why I'm doing this in parts, but I thank you guys for sticking around with me. I'm sorry. I also want to take this time to just apologize that I haven't been uploading a podcast in a while. I think it's been like fucking 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm sorry about this. I've been really wanting to get this episode out, and I've been really wanting to do this episode. And I think these are the episodes that I really, really wanted to get into when I started this podcast. And we're going to be getting back to the normal Nerd Out Sanctuary episodes for sure. I'm already working on the next one while I'm editing and finalizing this. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys sticking around with me. Hopefully, tell your friends and tell anyone else about this channel if you like it. And I'd appreciate all the help. Anyone that you can bring in. I appreciate everyone who tunes in. Even, I don't have a lot of people tuning in right now, which is totally fine. But I just appreciate all you guys, and I just wanted to take the time out of that and to do that again. I know I keep saying that over and over, but it's the truth, and I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the last part of this episode when I talk about Glass. And so, without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I hope you guys got everything you need, because this is the final part of the Why I Love series on the Unbreakable trilogy, and we're talking Glass, the final film of the trilogy. I'm sure some of the shit around is a little bit different. I kind of took a break. Well, I recorded the Glass segment of this, but I don't know. I wasn't really happy with it, and I kind of wanted to revisit it, and because this is probably the most important film to talk about with all the with all the films. Unbreakable is incredible. I probably like it more than a lot of people, but this one is a lot more divided or controversial or a little bit split. The Rotten Tomatoes score is 37%, which is pretty bad. I think the Metacritic score is like 43, which is also pretty bad. But so it's definitely, universally considered the worst one of the trilogy. I'm not going to disagree with you or agree with you either way. But I still personally really, really love this film, even though it's pretty flawed and it has a decent amount of missed opportunities, which we will get into for sure. But I think it's unfairly criticized, though. Overall, I think it's heavily unfairly criticized. I think a lot of people just came out of this being like, what the fuck was that, M. Night? I guess your return to form, M. Night. I guess you suck again. It's a little bit ridiculous, because I think people, they see an M. Night twist and they're just kind of trained to dislike it, since a lot of his twists have been kind of shitty recently, other than Split, and I've seen The Visit, so I can't really speak to that film. But I think we'll get into the twist here, but I'll save it for later. Let's just get into it. Other than I think just the film itself, I think the first two acts of Glass are honestly perfect, especially the first act. The first act, we're seeing David and his son Joseph being, a superhero team. We got, David searching for the Horde, and it's taking place pretty much right after Split. Kevin and as Patricia, where the Horde is introduced all in yellow, and you got him being represented by the color yellow again, which is awesome, and it's a very really cool shot how his face just kind of gets revealed through the glass. I thought that was amazing. I thought, again, the filmmaking here is phenomenal. It's consistent. From the first two. The music is very consistent. Everything is definitely up to par with Unbreakable and Split, especially from the first act. And you got that action scene in the beginning where both the Horde and David fight, and I thought it was a very interesting way of filming it. Again, this is, a lot of people were just like, oh, these movies are slow and they're so boring. Oh, I don't want to watch a boring superhero movie. Shut the fuck up. This is not a fucking Marvel movie. This is an Unbreakable M. Night movie. This is an immensely personal, intimate story that, yes, can be a slow burn, but that's on purpose. You have to think about it. There's a lot of themes. It's a film that makes you think and feel, like I said before with Unbreakable. Even Split, too. But, this one, again, with the POV decision for the camera on the David and the Horde fight scene, again, it's not. I've never really seen it before, and I thought it was really cool. A lot of people kind of criticize it. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's definitely weird and it's definitely different. I mean, I'm sure you want to see them fighting, but I mean, again, it's not. That's not what this film's about. It's not about the action. It's about the characters and about the growth and about the themes and what it's really telling you. So, yeah, again, like Joseph also being kind of like the Oracle character, definitely making like callbacks to actual comics, and then the Batman comics has, I'm pretty sure, like, or even just Alfred like, talking into his ear. So there's like that big parallel with comic books. I think in the very beginning they refer to the, on like a magazine, they refer to the Osaka Tower as a true Marvel, which I thought was really hilarious. A subtle shot at Marvel comic book movies. I thought that was really fun. Yeah, so also it's just such a very relevant film for the time, since the market is so saturated with comic book films now. I mean, we have all the Marvel movies. DC's starting to try to ramp up with their films. With Birds of Prey just came out. I'm pretty sure they're remaking Suicide Squad or some other bullshit. Comic book movies are like the hot they still are the hot thing, the hot, I guess, film to make now. It makes a shit ton of money. So, I mean, it's definitely it's relevant in that way, which I really appreciated. I mean, I that's just what I loved about. That's what made Unbreakable such a film that was ahead of its time. I mean, if Unbreakable would have came out now, I mean, talking probably Best Picture nomination. I mean, again, who knows? I mean, it's the Oscars. The Oscars are fucking stupid. But I mean, I think more people would have been conscious of the fact and be like, oh shit, this film is fucking amazing. Rather than like a lot of people don't really know how great Unbreakable is. I mean, Unbreakable is, in my opinion, Unbreakable is an absolute masterpiece. That's just my opinion. That's why I'm making this. So hopefully I can sway some of you guys that are kind of on the fence about the film to actually love the film, because it's really great. It's so good. And I think Glass reinforces how good the trilogy is. So let's get back into Glass. So yeah. Definitely a sequel to Unbreakable, and we wanted to see David being a superhero, and we see that in the very first act. And then the second act happens. Dr. Staple, or Dr. Exposition Staple, the way what I like to call her, Dr. Exposition Staple. So they show up as the Horde and David fall out of the abandoned building, and they bust out of the glass. And then the strobe lights go off and stun Kevin or the Horde, which is highly ironic because I love how strobe lights stun or disorient the Horde when, like, the whole purpose of, or the whole big idea of the Horde is they have the light. His Kevin's alternate personality is always, they take the light, or they come forward and they become Kevin. They're in the light, and strobe light, like intense, like too much light, disorients them and makes them retreat back into Kevin's subconscious. I thought that was really cool and very great use of irony there. I thought that again, M. Night is just being a fantastic filmmaker there. So they bring him to the mental hospital because they want to convince him that they're not actually special, and we're going to be getting into that a little bit more. But I kind of want to discuss Dr. Staple, or Dr. Exposition, because I think she's possibly the most common criticism behind this film, and I would probably heavily agree with that because, I mean, again, I'm calling her Dr. Exposition because that's pretty much her whole purpose. That's pretty much it. I mean, again, it's revealed at the end with the twist that she's, trying to convince them that they aren't special when they are. But I mean, I just, I don't disagree with her, logical motivations, but I think she's just such a huge missed opportunity to me. I mean, one, she's played by Sarah Paulson, who is a fantastic actress, and all she has to do is pretty much just deliver exposition, which is really annoying. Because, I mean, I also love her design. She has red hair, and she's portrayed by the color red, which signifies love, anger, warmth, also danger, and it's also like I read on per my source that I've been getting these color meanings off of. It's an incitement to act. Makes you want to do something. So, she's there to nurture these guys, but also you can it's also kind of mirrored that you don't want to listen to her because she's kind of, I don't know, maybe she's not who she says she is. She's dangerous a little bit, represented by the color red, and she's trying to make them believe that they're not who they think they are, which I thought was very cool. And again, it's just another great use of color with these movies, played by a fantastic actress. It's just she doesn't use M. Night doesn't use her correctly, in my opinion, and we'll get a little bit into that a little bit later when another scene comes up that I want to talk about. But I want to get into the way M. Night uses the alternative characters like Joseph, Casey from Split, and Elijah's mother. I thought he utilizes all three of them perfectly, especially at the very end. I mean, I mainly enjoy the way he uses Casey, because I love how he uses Casey as a sort of weakness for the Horde, but also a source of strength for Kevin. In that sense of like conflict, mainly because she displays compassion to him, and that's something that Kevin's never experienced before. That's why he, is able to hold the light at the very end, which I thought was very, very cool and very emotional, very beautiful scene at the very end. It definitely hits you right in the feels, especially if you've experienced, some really like tough shit in your life, and it's like having someone who has experienced something similar like being with you. I think that's just, it's a very strong concept, and it's a very emotional one. I thought it definitely resonated with me. I also love how Casey's shown with that zoo jacket from the same zoo that she was held captive at by the Horde. I think that's mainly because she views it as a source of strength, instead of like a lot of other people would probably not want to even go to a zoo after this, because they would relate it to a source of trauma, mainly because she was held hostage. But she views it as a source of strength, taking something that was bad, that was kind of mainly considered as something that could be emotionally distressing or something bad that would happen to. She views it as a sense of strength, and she relates it to she gained the strength to finally put her uncle away who's been abusing her, and that's why she kind of feels a sense of connection with Kevin. I mean, a lot of people I know a friend of mine, when I saw this with, were just like, what was up with fucking Casey and Kevin having this like romantic thing at the end? I'm like, that was not romantic at all, dude. Like, you completely missed it. It's not romantic at all. They have a related connection because they both experience similar abuse from, a parental figure. I mean, it's in her experience with Kevin and the Horde in Split, and she views as a sense of strength and transformation and self-betterment, and that's why she's there for Kevin, because without him she wouldn't have been able to become stronger. And I thought that was really cool. I love the way M. Night uses Casey in this film, even though a lot of people probably think like, oh, Casey's just a throw-in character, they just put her in here because she was in Split. I mean, it's like, no, she's there for a purpose. Because she has the emotional attachment to Kevin, and ends up being connected with his fate at the very end. So, now let's get into the scenes where I think is a major missed opportunity for with Dr. Staple. She has these scenes with Joseph and Casey, and I'm pretty sure she has one with Elijah's mother, where she's trying to convince them that their corresponding, loved one or, person that they care about isn't special, and there's a logical explanation for anything spectacular that they have done. Now here it's a very logical exposition driven scene here. Now, every character in this trilogy has some sort of emotional motivations for why they do things. David has an emotional reason to become what, he's supposed to become, is because he's, he realizes that there's something wrong with his life and he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And once he finds what he's supposed to be doing, that's what he is. So there's an emotional drive there, obviously, for purpose. Elijah is confused. He wants to find that one person so he can also give himself purpose. There's an emotional connection there. The horde wants the beast to be real and, to transcend, regular human life, because that validates their existence. That's their motivational their emotional motivations. Joseph wants his dad to be a superhero because that's it. It's his father. I mean, that's an emotional connection. Casey, views Kevin and the horde as a source of strength and shared trauma, and that's how she was able to grow. She uses her bad things that happen to make them stronger, sort of like what Kevin did. He uses. The bad things that happened to Kevin made him stronger technically because he developed these altered personalities that help him through life, and then eventually one became the beast who can basically reflect shotgun shells. He's impenetrable and he's super strong and shit like that. And then of course Elijah's mother obviously views her son as special and in something spectacular, like the dialogue at the very end, when he says, "Was I special, Mama?" And she says, "You were spectacular." Again, another incredibly emotional piece of dialogue that was perfect. But, there's all these emotional drives for all these characters. And then Dr. Staple is just here being like, I'm here basically to convince you guys that you're not special because, logic. And that's it. And I find that kind of boring to me. I think giving her an emotional drive and emotional motivation to convince these characters that they aren't special was really needed. It would have done so much for her character, and I think it would have set up the twist at the very end a little bit better so you can execute it a little bit better, which would have probably made a lot more people like this film. So, just for example, when she's telling, Joseph and Casey that, Kevin and David aren't special and there's logical explanations for all this, maybe, insert a, story that gives her give her backstory where maybe one of her loved ones or siblings or maybe a parent thought they were special, and that inevitably led to their death, or another one of their loved ones' death, or something like that, and then maybe they eventually killed themselves or something like that. So this is why she's in this business of convincing these people that they aren't special, because they really aren't, because she's seen it firsthand, and that's why she's doing this. It gives her an emotional drive, an emotional reason for her to be there. I'm going to throw that because I'm done with that page. And then later at the very end of the film, when David, touches her and he gets the vision, maybe it's like, oh shit, you see the evil, maybe she's the founder of this secret society or whatever the fuck. And you need this society because that's actually really important. That's what makes the twist work immensely, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So if you're kind of shaking on the whole secret society aspect of the twist, just hold up for a little bit, hear me out. But maybe he sees Dr. Staple convince her loved one that they aren't special, but maybe really they are, and maybe they're she convinces them to pretty much kill themselves. That would have been really fucked up and made her who she is today. And this is the reason. Maybe she was just jealous of maybe her sister or brother who was special and she wasn't. So she had to convince her brother or sister that they weren't special, and then convince them to basically, instead of they don't want to believe that they're special, that she just mainly just convinces them to kill themselves or something like that, or whatever. Just do whatever. Just make it so that she has an emotional motivation, emotional connection to what she's doing. I mean, everyone, all of us have emotional motivations to whatever the fuck we do, you know? Like, I'm doing this because I love movies. It's my passion, and I love talking about movies and TV and video games and shit like that. Things that make me, forget about my normal life, basically. But, I mean, that's my passion, so that's my emotional motivation for doing what I'm doing. It's not like, oh, I'm doing this because it's logical. It's not logical. I mean, I'm not getting any money back from this. I'm just doing this because I love doing it. And I love talking film and TV. It's just what I love doing. It's my emotional drive to do things. So that's something that was incredibly missing from her character and the film. I think that's one of those really big missed opportunities that I think would have made this film a lot better. But a lot of people thought that Dr. Staple convincing the main three, Elijah, Kevin, and David, that they aren't special, them convincing, or basically convincing the audience that they aren't special, is far-fetched. I would kind of disagree with that a little bit. I mean, yes, we've seen them do spectacular things, but I mean, she does come with some, like, sort of logical reasons why they aren't, I mean, the gun was in the basement for a while, and their shells could have been damp, or whatever the fuck she had, whatever explanation she had for it. I mean, like, it is sort of, like, believable, but you also have M. Night's past twists that have been kind of shitty, and them having all their powers be in their minds would have been an incredibly shitty twist. And, like, at the time, it's like, I don't really put it past M. Night here, but I mean, again, if he would have done that, I would have walked straight out of the theater, and I'd been like, fuck you, M. Night, that is stupid. But obviously he didn't do that because he's a smart filmmaker. So honestly, she just needed to make us doubt it a little bit. It's all about self-doubt, doubting, like, in yourself that you can, get that job, do whatever, play that sport, get that girl, whatever the fuck, you have, you're self-conscious and you just don't think it is possible. So that's also what her decision is, signifying. Plus, I think that whole scene is really great. They put them all in the pink room. One, because it just accentuates it exaggerates all three of their colors, which I thought was really great. But also, pink is very interesting. It's a very interesting color to make that room. So I did what I have been doing, and I looked into that. I looked up the meaning of pink, and what I found was that pink is a very contradictory color. It has meanings of strength, sensitivity, nurturing the distress, giving guidance to the ones in need of guidance, also emotional claustrophobia as well. And all that kind of makes sense with everything. I mean, it's very open, but also very claustrophobic at the same time. You know what I'm saying? The way the scene, like the camera's framed up, is always like zoomed in on every one of their faces as they're speaking, so it's very close up. They're always, they're very in their heads, so they're very claustrophobic within their minds or emotions. Just the messages are very mixed because they believe that they're special, and she's telling them that they aren't, so it's very kind of, there's some inner conflict going there. So yeah, I thought having the room be pink was actually a really awesome idea. Plus, you find out that David has the CTE. They brought David's brain scans in. I thought that was kind of, it's not really not a laughing matter because CTE is not a joke. But plus, I don't even think that's possible. I'm pretty sure the only way to evaluate CTE is after the patient has passed away, but I'm not really sure. But the big thing of the power of the mind theme is very big in Glass. I mean, it's very big throughout the entire film. I mean, David has to believe he's special in order to, like, fulfill his powers at the very end when he's, touching everyone, and he finally, he believes, as, people are walking by him, he believes that he's, fucking Superman or whatever the fuck. I'm sorry, there's something in my mouth. Gross. Sorry about that. But, Yeah. And then, Patricia's starting to doubt the beast and all that stuff. And of course, Elijah is not buying this shit for a fucking second because he's smart as fuck. Now, getting into Elijah, I love the little subtleties of M. Night's direction here when Dr. Staple finally turns to Elijah and addresses Elijah directly, and then it goes into Elijah's POV, and it's like tilted. The shot's like tilted like his head is, but it's also like a callback to the first to Unbreakable at the very end when Elijah's mom's telling David, it's like, oh, the villain's head is large, and the eyes are usually big to symbolize the villain's skewed perspective on the world. And then, having Elijah's fucking, point of view being skewed, I thought it was a really great touch, and I thought it was, it's the small things like that makes this trilogy so amazing and why I love it so much. So, yeah, it's great. I love the callbacks to Unbreakable. Anything referencing Unbreakable is just the greatest thing ever. But, yeah. Can we also acknowledge the fact that Mr. Glass looks fly as fuck in this film? Like, he drips real hard. He drips too hard in this film with his fucking purple suit and the fucking bling. And dude, come on, bro. It's fucking great. But, yeah. Now, at the very end, we get into the third act, which people have the most problems. Now, I want to kind of get out of the way. Each one of these films deals with the whole concept of purpose. Like I've been saying, David having, not fulfilling his, reason for being here. He believes that he's not doing the thing that he's supposed to be doing in Unbreakable, and then he finds that, and he fulfills his purpose. In Split, the Beast's existence is to fight for the broken, to fight for Kevin. That's their purpose. And, at the very end of Unbreakable, the really immensely holy shit line at the very end of Unbreakable when Mr. Glass tells David, now that we know who you are, I know who I am now. Which is holy shit. He's the villain. You know who the villain is, David? It's the exact opposite of the hero. And usually they're friends just like you and me. And usually the arch villain is linked with the genesis of the hero, usually, like Unbreakable, which I thought, again, the connection with comics is fucking great. I love it. But yeah, now we get to Glass. I mean, it's called Glass for the reason where it's because Elijah fulfills his full purpose, which he lets the world in on his secret, or their secret, David and Kevin and Elijah's secret. It's pretty awesome. It's amazing. I love it. But yeah, again, getting back to the whole power of belief or power of the mind. David's able to break through that door, of his cell because he believes he can. The Beast finally shows up when, Patricia is convinced by, Hedwig transforms into the Beast because Elijah convinces him that he is special. You're 8 years old forever? That's a superpower in itself. You're like Superman. So it's like, oh, okay, now I can, now we are special. So the Beast comes out. So the power of belief is very, very big. And it also plays in the fact how David believes his weakness is water. It's on purpose that David is, killed at the very end in a fucking puddle. That is on purpose. And we'll get into that at the very end here. But let's keep moving along a little bit. Let's get to the final, the final big scene where, the showdown. I love the way, the blocking of the scene is where the Horde is on one side and David's on the other side, and the Horde, runs past, and all the characters show up, and Elijah's pretty much narrating, and he's, pulling the strings, and he's manipulating everything, and I love that, and it makes it like one of those final, the final fight in, an Avengers or a Marvel movie or a DC or a Batman movie or whatever the fuck. It's like the the hero and then the villain come in and they fucking fight, it's fucking awesome. And I love the way they film it too. It's very different, it's in the perspective of inside the van instead of like a wide angled shot of all this, like, kung fu shit. Like, that's not what that's not what this film's about. I don't want to fucking see any kung fu shit, all right? It's not what this is. This is not what this film is. Now let's get into the reveal that Kevin's father, Joseph discovers, and he tells the Horde, the Beast, that I'm sorry if I've been calling it the Horde the whole time, the Beast. I mean, the Beast is the Horde, so, I mean, it's the same fucking thing, whatever the fuck. But when Joseph reveals to Kevin, or the Beast, that Kevin's father was on the same train that David was on, that Elijah derailed and is responsible for killing. Now, I also heard another same friend that criticized the whole, pretty much everything about the film. Like, kind of was just like, oh, well, I think the whole Kevin's father being on the same train is kind of all out of left field as well. And I'm just like, again, you're wrong. Rewatch Split. There's a scene when, I think I talked about it in my Split discussion, where Kevin, or I think as Barry, is talking to his like psychiatrist doctor or whatever, the older lady, and she says, well, ever since that your dad left on that train and never came back, blah 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 blah. It's like, oh shit, okay, so Devin's father left on a train and never came back. Why is that? Why does Hedwig go to in the middle of an abandoned train to transform into the Beast? Why is that? Well, it's because that a train is the genesis of the Horde. It's where everything started. It's the source of Kevin's trauma, because his father left him with his abusive mother, which is why, Kevin developed all these alternative personalities. That's why the Beast, arrives in the train in Split. So it connects. M. Night's been planning this fucking shit out. He's been planning this for fucking 19 years. All right, bruh. Like, nothing's just coincidence. So this was set up in Split, and probably he was thinking about it even after Unbreakable wrapped, probably. Back in 2001, he was thinking about this shit, which is insane. Fucking bravo, M. Night. Like, again, one of my favorites. I don't give a fuck what you have to say. Comment section, or the internet, or fucking movie critics, reviewers, whatever the fuck you are, thinking this film is trash. Clearly, you haven't been paying attention. Watch this video, and this is why. It's because, you haven't looked into it like I have. Anyway, so yeah, Kevin's father being on the train, it's on purpose. So after that's revealed, we get into the final twist, which is the whole secret society ending. Now, again, I said having Dr. Staple have an emotional connection kind of set it up a little bit more. I think. Where am I going with this? Okay, now okay. You probably think maybe I don't like the twist, but I do. I mean, I think the twist, this whole secret society, works heavily with the themes of the film, and I think it works conceptually. I just think it could have been executed a little bit better. Again, it is very out of left field, like M. Night Shyamalan twists are, but I mean, it's also, if you think about it more and more, it's really not. So I kind of just want to really dissect why M. Night really chose this whole secret society thing. So going back to Unbreakable and even Split, throughout the entire trilogy, this whole constant through line of, it's related to comics, right? And Elijah in Unbreakable tells David, comics are a form of history. They're just exaggerated forms of history. David, there are really strong people out there who can lift really heavy weights and are really strong, and you can be considered indestructible or just, really tough and shit like that. and David's powers are just an exaggeration. What if they can lift infinite amount of weight? What if there pretty much nothing can harm them? What if there is a Superman out there? People are, given foils of Superman. What if someone was really indestructible like Superman? With Kevin, some people who suffer from the multiple personality disorder, of whatever you want to call it, DID or whatever. Some personalities that they have probably are very destructive and harmful to the person and others. The Beast is just an exaggerated form of that. What if an alter was legitimately out to eat people and be absolutely destructive, to actually physically harm people? Elijah's, mind. I mean, again, his whole disorder is very exaggerated. His look is very exaggerated. The way he's very smart is exaggerated. His sense of purpose is exaggerated. So with that, let's look at the whole concept of evil secret society. One, they exist in comics. I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's evil societies in comics that are formed to take down specific heroes, different rogues galleries. I mean, that's what, that whole concept is there for. Now, let's just look at the exaggerated part of it. I mean, this is all related into real life here. What if this whole I'm sure evil secret societies may exist in real life, but I mean, maybe they don't, maybe they do. But I think this is a little bit more of a... Sorry, I just got a notification on my fucking computer. Fucking stupid laptop being annoying. But what if the evil secret society is just an exaggerated form of the truth, which is normal society? Just normal society. This evil secret society is trying to convince these people who are special that they aren't. Sort of like normal society kind of trains us and kind of convinces us that we are all just ordinary, and that it's good to just be ordinary and normal and not think you're special, to kind of endouse you with self-doubt, giving you pictures of perfectly, I mean, just look at Hollywood, all these perfectly formed actors that are incredibly ripped or good looking, or their bodies are amazing. These chicks are incredibly gorgeous, all these models, everyone's surrounded by it. And it's to make you feel like maybe you're not as significant as everyone else. But here's the thing, you are. And that's the message behind the trilogy, is that you have to believe that you are special because you are. And you can't let anyone tell you that. That's why it's so kind of hard to believe, hard for people to grasp, what? How is Dr. Stable convincing them that they aren't special? Clearly they are. But I mean, it's pretty easy to let you believe that you aren't special. But you are, though. I mean, there's around 7.5 billion people in the world? And yes, you are just another human being, but you're the only you out there. There's only one Michael Donato out there. That's me, who wears glasses, has blonde hair, blue eyes, and loves movies, and graduated from the University of Pittsburgh and lives in Pittsburgh. There's only one of me. There's only one of you. That's pretty special. I mean, it's 1 out of 7.5 billion people. That's insane. Really think about that. Yeah, you are special. Don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let society tell you different. That's why this whole concept of the secret society works immensely. That's why it's a brilliant twist. It's just not executed to, the most, the highest degree, like a Sixth Sense or the first Unbreakable film. I mean, again, having Dr. Stable have an emotional connection to it, I think would have been a little bit better. But let's get into the fates of our three characters at the very end. Let's just start with Kevin. How he gets shot when Casey grabs him and turns him back into normal Kevin. And I love the scene. The scene is so emotional and it's so sad, but it's also so uplifting. He says, "Oh, it's okay. I can hold the light now." When he's being held by Casey, and again, I brought this up before. Casey symbolizes, the weakness of the whore, but also of Kevin's strength, because she shows compassion to him, and he's never really experienced that before. And I think that's just it's so poetic, and it's so great, and it's so emotionally strong scene, and it gets me every time, and I get really emotional with it because it's like, oh man, this is really rough, because it's like, oh, it's at the very end that Kevin finally conquers the horde and is able to hold the light, and I think that's so great. And again, people who think the whole Casey and Kevin embracing at the end is like a romantic one, she's sad because it's like a romantic involvement, shut the fuck up, you're wrong. Get out of here. It's because they share an emotional connection. They've experienced similar things together and experienced the same thing together. They're both technically being held hostage by the horde in Split. Kevin and Casey are both being held hostage by the trauma that they have experienced from someone who should have been an authority and parental figure, who should have showed them guidance and should have been nurturing to them, but they weren't. And that's really fucked up, but it's also very beautiful that they were able to have the final moment at the end. I thought that was really awesome. Now let's get to David. David gets drowned in a little puddle, and a lot of people are very upset with this. What the fuck, man? Our main hero, Unbreakable, Bruce fucking Willis, John McClane, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. He fucking just gets drowned in a goddamn puddle and he dies. What the fuck? What the fuck, M. Night? Fucking bullshit. No, this is incredibly important that he dies in a puddle. It's on purpose that he dies in like a mere puddle. It's foreshadowed in the beginning of the film with the actual puddle, being in the shot like from outside. But it's also signifying the power of self-doubt and the power of the mind. And David believes that his weakness is water and how he can be drowned in water. That's his one weakness, like Superman's is kryptonite. And that doesn't even fucking make sense. It's like, what, this one little metal, as you're just in the presence of it and you just get weaker and it kills you? What? Okay. Whatever. You're supposed to be this indestructible being, like a fucking god amongst men, and this one little fucking crystal fucking fucks you up? What? All right. It's the same thing. But like he believes that water slows him down and makes him weaker and can eventually kill him. Just like self-doubt can really kill your drive, being like, we've all been there. Again, I can't personally tell like a woman's experience in this, but like, from a guy, if you don't believe in yourself and go up there and like ask, a girl, like, out or whatever the fuck. I've experienced this. I'm a fucking, like, that's what I deal with on a daily basis. I have self-doubt all the time. I've real self-confidence issues. It's a real thing. And it can be really destructive and can really hurt you in life. And that's what M. Night's trying to convey with David's fate at the end. So it's really important that he does die like that. Now let's go with Elijah at the very end. Another very emotional moment where he's lying there, but like he's, the whole thing, this wasn't a limited edition. This was an origin story. Yeah, it's not some special story. This is everyone. This is relatable. This is how everyone likes watching origin stories, because everyone kind of wants to view themselves as the character that is being originated, because, we all want to be superheroes, and like this is basically M. Night telling you that you are a superhero because you're unique, you're special, That's what it's an origin of everyone thinking that they are special. That's the message, and I think that's a really awesome concept. And again, with Elijah asking his mother, was I special? And then she says, you were spectacular. And I think that was really awesome, and it was very emotional, and I'm using the word emotional a lot, but whatever, fuck you, okay? I can be emotional, okay? Grown men cry, all right? Don't forget it. sirs. But anyway, so yeah. And his final plan is revealed, at the very end. I also love the exact very end, too. All the three characters sitting on the bench, and they're all wearing, Joseph's wearing green, Elijah's mother's wearing purple, Casey's wearing yellow, so signifying the corresponding, people that they care about, like colors that they represented. And especially the moment where Josh fucking looks back at the video and he sees his father bending steel. And it's like it's a callback, and they even put do it in the film. It's a callback to the scene where David edges the paper to Joseph, and he's like, "You were right about me." And it's again, Josh is just being confirmed that his dad's going "You were right. You were right about me. I am special." And which makes, you special as well. It's such an emotional moment. Oh my God, I fucking lose it. I fucking lost it when I was watching it again. I'm like, oh God. God damn it. This film, M. Night's doing it to me again. Sorry if I'm banging the table and you're picking up on that. But yeah, again, I think the music's a little weird at the very end. I will say that. The music's a little weird. I thought it would have been a little bit more uplifting. It's kind of a little bit menacing at the end. I was just like, what the fuck? I want this to emotionally resonate with me, and it does, but it's just like, I don't know. I think the composer could have done a little bit better job at the very end there, but again, I couldn't have done a better job with the music, so yeah. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's the East Rail 177 trilogy. That's why I love it, and the Unbreakable trilogy. Like I said, Unbreakable is one of my favorite films of all time. It's number 12, actually. I don't know if I will ever get into my top 100. I'm sure I will on this podcast, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this different episode. Took a lot of time, and I'm currently editing it right now, and it's taking a while. Again, I'm going to probably keep doing video podcasts from my normal ones. Look out for another episode. My next episode is just going to be a regular Nerd Out Sanctuary trilogy. I'm going to be talking the Hunters, the new Hunters Amazon series. I'm probably going to go see that Invisible Man movie, and I might talk Cowboy Bebop because I'm about to finish that as well. So look for that. I'm probably going to do a video, but I'm probably not going to put as many edits in because it's getting way too time consuming. I'll do it for these Why I Love series because it's important to have visuals for what I'm talking about. But for when I'm just randomly talking about a TV show, I might just, not have too much there. But just to hopefully save myself time because work is starting to ramp up a little bit. So I might not have as much time on my hands to do these, and I want to keep doing them. So yeah, guys. I'm not going to do my episodic message for these because I don't know. I just don't think it really fits. I think it fits more with just, I know, tomorrow's another day. It's okay to not be okay and all that bullshit. But yeah, guys. Again, with the trilogy, I love it. I love it. And if you're on the fence about it, revisit it again, and hopefully you take into consideration what I've said and what the themes are, and all that bullshit. Plus, I think it's just a good film to really inspire you and to help you personally develop yourself, because especially if you have a lot of self-doubt, because if you don't think you're special, you are special. Like I said, there's 7.5 billion people in the world, and there's only one of you. There's two ways to view that. There's one way that you're just another speck on another speck, being the Earth in this a larger speck, which is the Milky Way galaxy, which is in another speck, which is just in the larger universe. It's so you can view it that way, but you can also view that you are uniquely you, and there's only one of you out of 7.5 billion people, which is pretty amazing, which makes you very special. So on that note, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, thanks for sticking with me. I love all you guys, and hopefully I see you guys on the next episode of Nerd Out Sanctuary. Thanks, guys. Love you all.